The weather's cooling off, guys. The days are getting shorter, and fall fishing is here. And right now, there are some opportunities to still catch big bass with big baits. And today on Bass Fishing Declassified, we're about to talk about those windows of opportunities and what baits to throw to help you go out and catch a big bass during the month of October.
Hey guys, and welcome back here to another edition of Bass Fishing Declassified. Really appreciate you guys joining us today. We're going to be talking about how to catch big bass in the fall time of the year today, which is a challenge, guys, because I think probably out of all the seasons of the year, fall is the most difficult time to catch a big bass, especially early fall, like September and October. Fishing tends to be a little bit tougher, but there still are some ways you can catch some really good fish, and we're going to talk about that today. So right off the bat, guys, my favorite lure to catch a really big bass in the fall is a full-size jig. This is my Block It Old School jig in the 3/8 ounce. I use the 3/8 and 5/8 both, just depending upon the cover. And I've got a Zoom super chunk on it. This is a large bait. It's almost probably close to 5 inches long, full-size jig with a long skirt on it, guys. And you hear people talking about glide baits and big swim baits and stuff like that for catching big fish. And they do catch big fish, but guys, I catch just as many on a jig. In fact, last week at Lake of the Ozarks, I caught the biggest bass that I've caught all year long, a 7-pound, 3-ouncer on a jig at Lake of the Ozarks. So it will produce the biggest bass in the lake. Now, what you need to look for as far as catching fish on a jig, a big fish on a jig, is you've got to have a combination of some stained water like we have here and some type of heavy cover. Now, this is my favorite type of cover to fish with a jig right here. Anytime you've got a lay down tree in the water, this is a great area to catch bass, the big bass in the fall time of the year, especially if you have water visibility of under probably about 15 inches or so. Ideally, I like water visibility right around 12 inches for the black and blue jig. And also, guys, we're talking about the jig. The color makes an important role as far as catching the big ones too. You will catch more big bass on a black and blue jig than you will about any other color jig overall. And I prefer the black with the blue tinsel here. But the main thing, guys, is concentrate on stained water and heavy shallow cover. The more complex the cover is, the more limbs that it has coming off of it, access to deep water, shade, all that type of stuff. It's a really good way to catch big bass in the fall time. So get you a flipping stick, 25-pound test line, get you some big jigs, and you got a good chance of catching a big fish this fall. See y'all later.
Okay, guys, we appreciate you watching today's episode on Bass Fishing Declassified. I'm about to share with you a couple ways you can help support our anglers, including myself. I myself have a new YouTube channel called The Fishing Coach. Go down, subscribe, check it out. Let me know what you think, and I'd appreciate it. Guys, Matt has his own Tackle Warehouse affiliate link, okay? So you can go to his YouTube channel. He has his link paired with his stuff. You can go check out his latest video and see it there in the description. I'll try to put it in his description down there on this video, okay? And then Randy, guys, a lot of ways you can support Randy through Fish the Moment with his map breakdowns, virtual lessons. But guys, Randy right now has 3 YouTube channels, okay? 3. Pretty proud, okay? So go check them out. Depending on what you want from Randy, if you want advanced fishing tips, beginning fishing tips, or just hear his daily content on his channel, check it out, okay? We appreciate you. Now let's go see what my big bait for the fall is.
One of the best things about fishing during the fall period is the fact that you have a great shot at catching the biggest bass in the lake. All of the bass, regardless of species, are going to be putting on the feed bag so that they can add weight for the winter period, which helps them get through it because they're not going to be feeding that much. And anytime you've got all the fish in the lake feeding, what that does is it means you got a good shot at catching a giant bass. Now there's a handful of baits that really excel in terms of catching these big bass, but one of the best is a schoolie rig like this. This is a Picasso schoolie rig bait ball. It's just an umbrella rig here, but a umbrella rig is going to be a phenomenal bait at helping you catch those big fish because you're going to have 3, 4, 5 or more swim baits attached to the end, creating that big ball of shad that those big fish are going to be chasing. Now, I will say, anytime throwing an umbrella rig, you got to check your local state regulations to see how many baits you can put on these, how many hooks you can have to determine what is legal or not. But the reason there are these state rules is because of the fact that they are that good when it comes to catching fish. So anytime you're looking to generate a strike from a big fish, the more baits that you can add on this, the greater the likelihood you're going to have those big fish commit to attacking your umbrella rig. Now, I got to tell you, one of the reasons I love throwing these schoolie rigs is because you can actually swap out the swivels. These little clevises slide down, you can pop it out, slide it right back up, just like that. So I've taken it off here. Thought it fell off, but it didn't. And then you can just slide the sleeve back up over the top. And what that does is it gives you a really good chance at repairing bad swivels that may have occurred. Because anytime you do catch really big fish, a lot of times what happens is you do bend the swivels out of place. So to be able to interchange that is a really good concept, and one of the reasons why I like throwing these Picasso ones. Now, I will tell you, you can't just go out and wing this out all over the lake and expect to catch the biggest fish. You still want to be fishing in those prime areas. So if you've got some shallow feeding flats, if you've got some isolated rock piles, maybe around some isolated hard target objects like a lay down tree or a dock, objects that are going to be grabbing some sunlight and producing heat, that's going to call big fish to it. And I would definitely also look at your break lines. A lot of your fish are traveling break lines right now to move from wintering or from summer to wintering locations. This fall period is a big transitional month. From a rod and reel standpoint, it kind of depends on how big your umbrella rig is. If you're throwing something that's smaller like this one, I like to throw it on a heavier medium heavy rod, a 7-foot. This is a MHX custom built rod. This is an NMB 874, so it's a 7.3 medium heavy rod. Basically, your flipping sticks are going to be what you're looking for, but not your heaviest stuff, just your medium heavy to light heavy action rods. Now, if you're throwing an umbrella rig that is massive, lots of blades, lots of arms on it, you might need to go with something that's a little bit heavier, but I still like to throw it on some of my traditional bass, traditional bass fishing power gear. I do think that makes sense. I also like to throw it on fluorocarbon if I can get away with it. Generally speaking, I'm going to throw it on 17-pound, 100% Berkeley Trilene fluorocarbon. If I'm throwing something a little bit bigger, I might go up to 20 or 25 pound, but 17 pounds should get the job done for you. I do feel like you get a better hookup percentage if you're throwing it on fluorocarbon versus braid, and at the same time I do think you tend to get a few more bites on the fluorocarbon, because at this point a lot of these fish have seen a lot of swim baits and a lot of jerk baits, and anything you can do to put the bite in your favor I think helps. But definitely, if you're looking to catch a giant fish on your lake, you want to check out umbrella rigs. Umbrella rigs are one of the absolute best baits at getting the biggest fish in the lake to bite.
Okay guys, Matt just talked about a pretty unique umbrella rig, and guys, I'm about to actually go order one myself and give it a shot. I would want to talk about umbrella rigs, but Matt talked about it, so now I'm going to talk about a bait that I know catches big bass in the fall, and it's a very, very limited opportunity for it. And guys, of course, it is the Dixie Jet Talon Spoon. I have two spoons. I have the Talon and the Falcon, depending on your preference. Now this one right here I know scares a lot of people off because this is so big and so wide. So if you're like, hey, my bait's not that big in the lake, look, you got the Falcon, just a little skinnier, smaller profile. So guys, what the thing is about this right here, as we all know, bass are keying on bait fishing. You know, we've heard us talk about the little bait, but guys, there are still big bait in the lake. And guess what? Some big bass want to eat limited times of the day, and they're going to eat big baits. And so big bait fish, not just the big lures, but big bait fish. So part of the thing about the fall, guys, and this is just me and my experience in the fall, where I'm at, you know, because I'm down here in the south, when those water temperature, guys, is 90 degrees and we have those hot days, bass have to feed more. Now, with the water temperature getting cooler, okay, let's say that water temperature is in them, that 78, 75s, bass are not eating or feeding as much. And I say not feeding as much. There are times I know they might feed, you know, just have a crazy day, but they're not feeding as much. There's opportunities. So guys, those big fish are going to have more limited opportunities. So when you see these big schools on your 2D down imaging, or if you're chasing with a live scope, sometimes a big bait will get the biggest one in the school to bite, and nothing better than throwing it with a spoon. This is the shattered glass color right here on the Talon Spoon. This is the sexy shattered glass on the Falcon. I love this one right here. And so guys, one thing about it, bunch of different retrieves. I'm going to talk about just the retrieves when you're throwing this. You know, you're throwing this around rock, you're throwing it off ledges, you're flats with stumps, you know, where the bass are just pushing the bait fish up. There's two retrieves, there's the one retrieve, and I'm gonna share something I actually learned the other day. I've talked about it in my video, okay? The one retrieve you see a lot of guys do is they jack it, right? You know, and I don't wanna throw my little rod slip, but you throw it out, let it line, and then you just jack it up. Well, guys, one thing I learned about from Chris Zaldane, who's a really good spoon fisherman, guys, right? He's just one of the kind of known for it. There's a lot of guys that do, but he's one of them. One thing he talked about is throwing it out and then pushing down on your rod, and that's all you need to do. So instead of jacking it and wearing yourself out, just here, you know, you have your rod and you just push it and then let it go down, push it. And so it's just, it kind of saves you stamina, don't wear you out as much throwing this thing. And then the other retrieve, guys, I want to talk about that I like a lot is just the, you know, you're reeling it retrieve, you know, and there's some stuff to it that I've talked about in other videos and you might have seen, but you just kind of fish like a hair jig, throw it out, let it sink, and you just kind of reel it. And as you're reeling it, guys, it's just kind of fluttering off the bottom and you kill it, kind of goes up and down, kind of like a hair jig. So that's worked for us down here, and like I said, there's more to it, and you know, so I'm not going to get in depth on it totally, but guys, so just let me know what you think about the spoon. Throwing this on a 7-10 extra heavy fast rod. There's a lot of guys I know, you know, throwing the 7.6, 7.5s, and Zaldane's even talked about 7.9, and he's kind of more like a big crankbait type of rod, like a 10XD style rod, but he's going braid to fluoro. Guys, I'm going just straight fluoro. I think the fluoro with this extra heavy fast is a great combo, okay? And I've not, you know, had any bad luck with it, but there's other guys that talk about doing different things. The braid to fluoro, to me, I just don't like the, there's three knots, you know, braid to the swivel, line, to the swivel, line, to this guy. And I know with this, as you see on this spoon, there's multiple hooks. There's a chance you can catch two at one time. And I've not caught two giants yet with it at one time. I've caught 2 3-pounders. But like, let's say you catch 2 7-pounders at once. I don't want all these hooks, all of my knots kind of just, you know, in a bind, okay? So I'm just gonna go with just the one knot right there. This has great equipment on it with the spoon. You see the swivel right here. We got the I just went blank on with that. I just went blank on that right there. Just kind of great, just kind of funny right now. Good product here. This thing right here is made to catch a bunch of fish and go through some tough conditions. Because I've gotten these dudes hung a lot, and I have my little lure retriever get them out. These guys have made it, okay? So hey, want to catch a big bass? Tie you on a big spoon, give it a shot. Now let's see what Randy has to say.